The clock read 4 a.m. when my phone lit up on the nightstand. Sleep wasn't happening anyway. Construction deadline stress had my brain running overtime about Monday's concrete pour at the Riverside Commercial Center. We were already 3 days behind schedule, and the general contractor was breathing down my neck about weather delays. Rain was forecast for Tuesday, which meant we had exactly one shot to get the foundation right. Then, I saw Rebecca's name flash across the screen, and my stomach dropped. Emergency with the girls, staying at mom's tonight, I'll explain everything. I stared at those words until they blurred. My wife, who obsesses over grammar and proofreads every single message twice, had just sent me a vague text in the middle of the night from wherever the hell she actually was. She was supposed to be at her sister Sarah's apartment across town. Girls' weekend, she called it. Wine, movies, sister bonding time away from work stress. She'd be home Sunday morning, she'd promised, in time to help the girls pack for their sleepover at Grandma Linda's house. But here's what really got me. The girls, 8-year-old Lily and 10-year-old Sophie, were sleeping peacefully down the hall in their shared bedroom. Their weekend bags still sat by the front door, packed and ready for their planned sleepover at their grandmother's house. The same grandmother Rebecca was supposedly dealing with an emergency for at 4 in the morning. So, what emergency exactly was my wife handling that involved children who were sound asleep in their own beds? That's what this always said these days. Always another girls' night, another emergency, another friend in crisis who desperately needed her immediate attention. I sat there in our king-size bed, the same bed where we used to plan family vacations and discuss the girls' school progress, reading those words over and over. Emergency came up at 4 sound in the morning. Don't worry, she said. Like I could just roll over and go back to sleep like nothing was wrong. But here's what really got me. I wasn't shocked. Hurt? Absolutely. Furious? You bet. But surprised? Not even a little bit. The warning signs had been flashing like neon construction barriers for the past 2 months, and I'd been documenting every single one with the same methodical attention I used to track project timelines. She'd started spending an unusual amount of time on her appearance before these casual nights out. Hair perfectly styled for wine and movies with her sister. Makeup applied with surgical precision for grabbing drinks with coworkers. New dresses purchased for simple dinner dates with girlfriends she'd known for years. The woman who used to throw on jeans and a sweater was suddenly coordinating outfits like she was attending corporate galas. Her phone had migrated from its usual spot on the kitchen counter to living permanently face down on every surface. The same device that used to sit openly while she scrolled through social media or showed me funny videos now disappeared into her purse the second she walked through the door. Text notifications that used to ping openly throughout dinner conversations were now silenced completely. Phone calls that used to happen in my presence were suddenly private affairs, requiring trips to other rooms. She'd picked up this new habit of showering the second she walked through the door, no matter what time she got home from these mysterious outings. The woman who used to collapse on the couch after long workdays was suddenly energized enough for immediate personal hygiene routines at midnight. Hair washing that normally happened in the mornings was relocated to late-night sessions with the bathroom door locked. Clothes that used to get tossed in the hamper were being immediately transferred to the washing machine, even when they didn't look dirty. And the fights. God, the pointless fights she'd start out of nowhere, almost like she needed an excuse to storm out angry and justified. Last week's blow-up about me helping Sophie with her math homework was particularly memorable and telling. "You're not their father," she'd snapped with venom I'd never heard before. "Stop trying to parent my children." The words had stung then, cutting deep into 3 years of bedtime stories, soccer practice carpools, and parent-teacher conferences. Now, they took on a completely different meaning, like she'd been rehearsing reasons to minimize my role in their lives. 2 weeks before that, she'd picked a massive argument about me reorganizing the garage without asking her permission first. We'd had this huge screaming match about respect and communication, with her accusing me of treating her like a child and making unilateral decisions about our shared space. She'd stormed out to clear her head around 8 p.m. and didn't return until well past midnight, claiming she'd driven around for hours thinking about our relationship. At the time, I'd felt guilty about triggering such an emotional reaction over something as simple as moving lawn equipment. But now, sitting in the dark with her 4 a.m. text message glowing on my screen, the pattern became crystal clear. She'd been manufacturing conflicts to justify mysterious absences, creating emotional distance to make her deception feel less personal, building resentment toward me to rationalize whatever she was doing with whoever she was actually spending her time with. I could have called Linda right then to verify Rebecca's story about staying at her mother's house. But what was the point? I already knew what the truth was, the same way I knew when subcontractors were lying about material delays, or when inspectors were fishing for problems that didn't exist. After 15 years in construction management, you develop an instinct for detecting bullshit, and every word of Rebecca's message reeked of it. Instead, I typed back, "No explanation needed. Stay with whoever you're with. Consider yourself single." I hit send before my brain could talk me out of it, the same way I'd learned to make quick decisions on job sites when delays meant thousands of dollars in penalties. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? My wife had been sneaking around with some guy for weeks, thinking I was either too trusting or too stupid to notice the obvious signs. And she'd dragged the girls into her lie, using my love for them as the perfect cover story for whatever affair she'd been conducting. My phone immediately started vibrating with incoming calls. I declined every single one and switched it to silent mode. The screen kept lighting up with her name, over and over, like she was having a complete mental breakdown wherever she actually was. 25 minutes later, I heard tires screaming into our driveway with the kind of reckless urgency that probably woke half the neighborhood. Then came desperate pounding on the front door, followed by our doorbell ringing nonstop, like someone was having a complete breakdown on my front porch. I took my sweet time getting dressed, enjoying every second of her panic. Put on a clean shirt, ran my fingers through my hair, walked slowly down the stairs while she continued her frantic symphony of door pounding and doorbell abuse. Through the peephole, I could see Rebecca standing there in the same black cocktail dress she'd worn when she left yesterday afternoon for her supposed sister bonding weekend. Her hair was a complete disaster, her carefully applied makeup smeared everywhere, looking exactly like someone who'd cried hysterically during an entire drive home from wherever she'd actually been spending the night. "Please open the door," her voice cracked, with the kind of desperation I'd never heard from her before. "I can explain what happened. Just let me explain what's going on." I unlocked the deadbolt but deliberately left the security chain attached, cracking the door just wide enough to see her tear-streaked face clearly. The same face that had kissed me goodbye yesterday afternoon while lying directly to my face about her weekend plans. "It's 4:30 in the morning," I said, keeping my voice eerily calm, with the same tone I used when firing subcontractors who'd screwed up beyond redemption. "Interesting how you suddenly found time to race home from your mother's emergency." "Baby, please, you don't understand what happened. You've got this completely wrong." "I understand perfectly." My voice stayed level and cold, like discussing weather delays with the general contractor. "You were supposedly at Sarah's place for a girls' weekend. You're clearly not there. You sent me a sketchy text at 4 a.m. claiming an emergency with your daughters who are sound asleep upstairs. And now you're standing on my porch looking exactly like someone who just snuck out of somewhere she shouldn't have been." She pressed her tear-stained face against the narrow gap in the door, probably leaving makeup, stains on the white paint I'd touched up last month. "It's not what you're thinking at all." "Then enlighten me, because from my perspective, it looks exactly like you got caught red-handed." The tears came harder now, but I felt absolutely nothing. No urge to comfort her like I would have 6 months ago. No guilt about being harsh, just the cold, methodical satisfaction of watching someone face consequences for choices they'd made deliberately. I was helping someone. A friend had a serious crisis situation at 4 in the morning. What kind of crisis requires you to lie about where you're going and who you're with? She hesitated for just a moment, and that pause told me everything I needed to know. After 15 years of managing construction crews, you learn to read people's faces when they're about to feed you complete bullshit. She needed someone to talk to. Her boyfriend dumped her, and she was falling apart emotionally. Which friend are we talking about here? Another damning pause while her brain scrambled to construct a believable lie. Rachel. Rachel needed help dealing with her breakup. I almost laughed out loud at the amateur-level deception. Rachel moved to Portland 6 months ago for that new job opportunity. Try again. Her face went completely white, like someone had drained all the blood from her system. "I meant Amanda. I got confused because I'm so upset." Amanda needed help. Amanda needed help with what, specifically at 4 in the morning? She was having a complete panic attack about her relationship situation. She couldn't breathe properly, couldn't think straight. So, at 4 in the morning, Amanda called you instead of 911, instead of her long-term boyfriend, instead of any of her other friends she's known way longer than you. She was sobbing openly now, but it felt manipulative rather than genuine, like she was performing grief rather than actually experiencing it. Please, just let me inside so we can discuss this properly, face to face. You've had 30 minutes to rehearse this explanation during your panicked drive home. This is seriously the best story you could come up with? I could see lights flickering on in neighbors' windows across the street. Perfect. Let the whole neighborhood witness exactly what kind of person she'd chosen to become. I'm telling you the complete and honest truth. No, you're really not. And we both know it. I started closing the door, but she threw her full weight against it, like a desperate person trying to prevent their world from completely collapsing. Where am I supposed to go if you won't let me explain? Back to wherever you just came from? Or maybe you should start being honest for once in this conversation. She just kept crying and begging, but I'd already made my choice the moment I sent that text message. Some decisions can't be undone, and some people show you exactly who they really are when they think nobody's watching. My wife had just shown me everything I needed to see about her character and her respect for our marriage. She wasn't giving up, though. If anything, the desperation was escalating to theatrical levels. Please, I'm literally begging you. Just give me 5 minutes to tell you what really happened tonight. I looked at her through the narrow opening, still wearing that black dress I'd complimented yesterday evening when she'd claimed it was perfect for a casual night with her sister. Those same heels, she'd said, were surprisingly comfortable for a relaxed evening of wine and movies. Fine, I said, after letting the silence stretch long enough to make her squirm. 5 minutes, right here on the porch. Start talking. Can't we do this inside? The neighbors are watching us. The neighbors are already awake thanks to your dramatic scene. Besides, you didn't worry about privacy when you texted me at 4 a.m., claiming emergencies that don't exist. Start talking, or I'm closing this door. She wiped her face with her hand, smearing mascara even worse, and probably ruining whatever was left of her carefully applied makeup from yesterday. Okay, Amanda called me around 1 in the morning. She was having a complete breakdown about her work situation and needed someone to talk her through it. Stop right there. I held up my hand like directing traffic at a construction site. Amanda works the night shift at Memorial Hospital. She's been working nights for 2 years straight. Why would she be freaking out about work at 1 a.m. when that's literally when her shift starts every single night? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish dying on dry land, realizing she'd walked straight into a trap of her own making. Also, I continued methodically, Amanda's been dating that paramedic guy Marcus for almost a year now. Pretty serious relationship from everything you've told me. They're practically living together. So, when exactly did this mysterious boyfriend breakup happen that you mentioned 30 seconds ago? I got confused. I meant her work boyfriend. There was workplace drama. You meant you needed more time to invent a better lie that doesn't contradict basic facts I already know. She slumped against the doorframe, looking completely defeated. You're not even trying to believe what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand how someone as intelligent as you thought I'd swallow this garbage story. You could have at least picked a friend whose work schedule I don't know by heart, or checked social media to see if anyone actually broke up recently before building your alibi around it. A car cruised by slowly, probably Mr. Henderson from down the street heading to his early warehouse shift. He slowed down and stared at our front porch drama. I waved at him cheerfully, like we were having a pleasant morning conversation about weekend plans. This is absolutely humiliating, she whispered. Is it? I hadn't noticed. You seemed pretty comfortable with public. Scenes when you were pounding on my door and screaming through the neighborhood. She looked up at me with those same eyes that used to make me forget whatever minor annoyance I was dealing with. The same eyes that had looked at me lovingly when we'd gotten married 3 years ago. I know how this must look from your perspective, but I'm telling you the absolute truth. How does it look from my perspective, Rebecca? Tell me exactly what you think this looks like. She was quiet for a long moment, probably calculating how much honesty she could afford without completely destroying her position. Like I was cheating on you. Exactly, like you were cheating because you were cheating. I wasn't. Then where were you really? And this time, maybe try telling the truth instead of improvising fiction. I told you, with Amanda dealing with her crisis. Great. Give me her phone number right now so I can call and verify your story. Pure panic flashed across her features like lightning. She's probably asleep by now. She was awake enough for a crisis at 1 a.m. I'm sure she won't mind a quick follow-up call to confirm she's okay. I don't have her number memorized in my phone. I actually did laugh out loud at the absurdity. You don't have Amanda's number memorized. Amanda who you've been friends with since college? Amanda who was a bridesmaid at our wedding? Amanda whose birthday party we attended last month? She started crying again, but it felt different this time. Less panicked desperation, more crushing defeat, as her story collapsed under basic scrutiny. "Where's your car?" I asked, glancing past her at our driveway. "What do you mean?" "Your car, the Honda sedan you drove to Sarah's place yesterday afternoon. Where is your vehicle right now?" She turned to look at her car sitting in its normal spot in our driveway. "It's right there where I always park it." Interesting, because that car has been sitting there all night long. Her entire face drained of color like someone had opened a valve. I got up around midnight to grab a glass of water from the kitchen, looked out the window while I was drinking it. Your car was sitting right there in that exact spot. I figured you'd taken an Uber to Sarah's place to avoid drinking and driving. Seemed responsible and thoughtful, actually. She was visibly shaking now, realizing how thoroughly her lies were unraveling under basic observation. "So, if your car was here all night, and you were supposedly at Sarah's place, clear across town, having a girls' weekend, how exactly did you get back and forth? Did Amanda's emotional crisis involve you playing chauffeur service? Because that seems like an excessive amount of back and forth driving for someone having a breakdown." "I can explain that part too. I'm absolutely certain you can. You're incredibly creative with explanations. Here's the thing though, I already called Sarah." The blood drained from her face so completely she thought she might actually faint on my front porch. "Called her about 25 minutes ago, actually, right after your touching performance started out here. Woke her up from a sound sleep. She was extremely confused about why I was asking if you were there, considering she hasn't seen you in almost a month." She sat down hard on the concrete step, like her legs had given out. "She also mentioned you canceled your plans with her yesterday morning. Something about an important situation coming up that required your immediate attention. Funny how important situations keep coming up for you lately, isn't it?" I crouched down to her eye level, studying her face like I would examine structural damage on a job site. "So, let's try this one final time. Where were you tonight? And this time, maybe consider the truth. It's actually much easier to remember than elaborate fiction." She was sobbing harder now, but I felt absolutely nothing. No urge to comfort her like I would have 6 months ago. No guilt about being harsh or demanding answers. Just mild curiosity about whether she'd finally be honest, or continue digging herself deeper into obvious lies. She started, then stopped completely, probably realizing that any answer would destroy her completely. "Yes? You were where?" "I can't say it." "Can't what? Can't tell the truth, or can't face the consequences of your actions?" She looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in 3 years of marriage. Genuine terror. Not fear of me personally, but terror of losing everything she'd gambled away by making the choices she'd been making for weeks. "If I tell you the truth," she whispered like a confession, "you'll never forgive me for it. If you don't tell me the truth, there's nothing left to forgive. This conversation ends right here, and you can spend the rest of the night wherever you spent the last 4 hours." She took a shaky breath that sounded like her entire world was collapsing. I was with someone else. There it was. Finally. The truth I'd known since the moment her text message lit up my phone. I was with someone else tonight. I stood up slowly, brushing off my knees with the same methodical precision I used when finishing tasks on construction sites. There we go. See how much simpler honesty is than all that creative storytelling? She was still sitting on the step, looking like her entire universe had imploded, which, to be completely fair, it had. "It's not what you're thinking, though." "Let me guess. It just happened spontaneously. You didn't plan any of it. You were feeling vulnerable and emotional. He was there at the right moment. One thing led to another naturally. I counted off the classic excuses on my fingers, like checking items off a punch list. Did I miss any of the standard cheating wife explanations? She stared up at me in complete disbelief. How are you so calm about this right now? Because I'm not surprised. I already told you that multiple times. What does that even mean? I leaned against the doorframe, settling in for the explanation she deserved to hear. The late nights became more frequent starting about 2 months ago. Phone always face down became your new standard operating procedure about 3 weeks ago. The sudden workout obsession and new wardrobe purchases started last month. Very dedicated transformation, by the way. Impressive commitment to the process. Her jaw literally dropped open. Oh, and the sudden enthusiasm for company social events and networking mixers. For someone who used to skip every office party and corporate function, you sure developed an interest in professional socializing. Always coming home with detailed stories about interesting conversations with fascinating new colleagues. You were watching me like some kind of stalker. I was married to you. I noticed things changing, like how you started styling your hair differently on specific days of the week, or how you'd immediately jump in the shower the instant you walked through the door, no matter what time you got home, or how you suddenly needed to charge your phone in the other room instead of on your nightstand like you'd done for 3 years. She was crying silently now, probably realizing how obvious her behavior had been. The funniest part was how you started picking completely ridiculous fights with me over absolutely nothing, almost like you were trying to justify something to yourself by manufacturing reasons to be angry with me. Remember 2 weeks ago when you completely freaked out because I helped Sophie with her science project? We had this massive screaming argument about me overstepping parental boundaries. You stormed out to clear your head around 8:12 p.m. and didn't come back until well past midnight. She nodded miserably, probably remembering exactly how deliberate that fight had been. That was the night I knew for certain what was happening, because in 3 years of being their stepfather, you've never once complained about me helping the girls with homework or school projects. You've always encouraged my involvement in their lives, but suddenly you needed an excuse to leave angry and justified, didn't you? I'm so sorry for all of this. For which part specifically? The cheating, the systematic lying, or getting caught? She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. So, who is he? Does it really matter at this point? It matters to me. I'd like to know who my wife chose over our marriage and our family. She took another shaky breath. Jason. Jason who? Jason Walsh. From the marketing department at my company. I actually laughed out loud, genuinely amused by the predictability. Jason Walsh. The guy who organized last year's company retreat and thinks he's irresistible to women because he drives that leased BMW and wears expensive cologne. Please don't. No, this is absolutely perfect. This is exactly what I should have expected. I was still chuckling. Jason Walsh? The same Jason who was flirting with the bartender at your office Christmas party while buying drinks for everyone else's spouses. It's not about him specifically. Oh, but it absolutely is. Because you didn't just cheat on me randomly. You cheated on me with Jason Walsh specifically. You know what that tells me about how little you valued what we had together? She flinched like I'd physically struck her. I mean, if you're going to destroy your marriage, at least pick someone impressive. Someone who makes me think, okay, I can understand why she'd risk everything for that. You picked Jason Walsh. You picked the guy who wears polo shirts to professional networking events and calls everyone buddy like he's still in college. You're being cruel right now. I'm being honest. There's a significant difference between the two. I pulled out my phone. Speaking of honest, I should probably call his girlfriend. What's her name again? Melissa? No, please don't do that. Why not? She deserves to know what her boyfriend was doing tonight, just like I deserve to know what my wife was doing. Because it'll ruin everything for everyone involved. Everything's already ruined. You ruined it when you made your choices tonight and for the past 6 weeks. She stood up abruptly. Tonight was just one time. Just tonight, I swear to you. How many other times were there before tonight? That's the only time anything physical happened, I promise you. How long have you been seeing him emotionally? She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. How long, Rebecca? 6 weeks. 6 weeks of what exactly? Flirting at work, texting, meeting for coffee, or 6 weeks building up to tonight? Tonight was the first time we actually slept together. She nodded without meeting my eyes, probably realizing how pathetic it sounded. but you've been emotionally cheating for 6 weeks straight. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Walk me through your master plan. Were you going to leave me for Jason eventually, or just keep sneaking around forever? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly about the future. You weren't thinking clearly for 6 consecutive weeks. That's a substantial amount of not thinking clearly. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and smiled. Interesting. That's my attorney texting back. Apparently, some lawyers do answer emergency messages at 4:30 a.m. Her eyes went wide with complete panic. Your attorney? You called your lawyer? I called him right after I called Sarah to verify your story. Left a detailed voicemail explaining the situation. He's apparently an early riser with excellent work ethic. You called your lawyer before you even talked to me about what happened. I called my lawyer after you texted me at 4 a.m. because I knew exactly what that text meant, and I knew exactly what I needed to do about protecting myself legally. But what if you were wrong? What if it really was a legitimate emergency? Then you would have answered my first call, or my second call, or my third call. Instead, you spent 25 minutes driving home to start damage control. She sat back down on the step, looking utterly defeated. He wants to meet this morning at 9 a.m. to discuss divorce proceedings. I should probably get some rest before then. Wait, you can't just... We need to discuss the situation more thoroughly. We are discussing it. You cheated. You lied systematically about it. You got caught. What else is there to discuss? What we're going to do now. How we're going to handle this. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to divorce you and move forward with my life. Just like that. No discussion. Just like that. She started crying harder than before. What about marriage counseling? What about trying to work through this together? What's to work through? You chose Jason over me tonight. You chose him again by lying about it afterward. Every single choice you've made for 6 weeks has been against our marriage. People make mistakes. People learn from serious mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a series of deliberate, calculated decisions made over weeks. And now, I'm making mine. I turned to go back inside. Where am I supposed to go right now? I suggest Jason's place, since that's apparently where you want to be anyway. He lives with Melissa. Then I guess you both have some explaining to do to her. I closed the door and locked it. I made it maybe 10 feet into the house before she started pounding on the door again with renewed desperation. Please, I have nowhere else to go. I ignored her completely and started a pot of coffee. If I was meeting with an attorney in a few hours, I might as well be alert and caffeinated for the conversation. The pounding got more frantic. Then I heard her phone ringing repeatedly, then more crying, then her phone ringing again. I was pouring my first cup when she started shouting through the door. He won't answer! Jason won't answer his phone! I opened the door again, coffee mug in hand. She was a complete disaster, mascara streaks covering her face, hair completely disheveled from crying and panic. That expensive black dress now wrinkled from sitting on concrete. His girlfriend probably found out about tonight, I said calmly. Funny how consequences work. This is completely insane. You're being totally unreasonable about everything. I opened the door wider. Unreasonable? Let me see if I understand this correctly. You cheat on me for 6 weeks, lie repeatedly to my face, sneak around behind my back, and when you get caught red-handed, I'm the one being unreasonable for having consequences. 3 months later, I was sitting in my living room on a Saturday morning at $95,000 annually. Instead of $85,000, thanks to my recent promotion to senior project manager, the same living room where Rebecca's family had tried to convince me to take her back, the same couch where we used to watch movies with the girls on lazy weekends. But now, it was my living room, my couch, my peaceful Saturday morning, and my successful career trajectory moving upward without relationship drama.